Hey, what's up, everyone? Morey here, and today we're going to be doing a Christian Coleman versus Noah Lyles sprinting mechanics breakdown. I was recently watching the new season of Sprint on Netflix, and they were showing this rivalry between Christian Coleman and Noah Lyles. And I mean, I just love watching these two guys compete against each other. I think it's such great entertainment, and I also think that they are two totally different types of sprinters, which is very interesting when it comes to understanding more about how they're able to succeed at such a high level. We have Noah Lyles, who's 5'10", big personality, really long legs, great top speed, not as good out of the blocks, where Christian Coleman is 5'9", so they're really only 1 inch difference, which is crazy to me because it seems like Noah Lyles is so much taller. But Christian Coleman is much more compact. He's very thick in like the torso, doesn't have long legs, is pretty normal with his leg length, but just has this insane block start, is able to get out of the block so quickly, probably the best block starter in the world, where Noah Lyles is amongst the fastest with his top end speed in the world. And you see Noah Lyles, he's very outgoing, he's very loud. He made a name for himself in the 200 meter, ended up winning the world championship in the 100 and the 200 meter in 2023, then went down even to the 60, which is where Christian Coleman is the self-proclaimed GOAT of the 60 meter. He's won the world championship in 2021, 2022, and then ended up winning it again in 2024. And so when watching Sprint, they're showing the rivalry between these two as they prepare for the U.S. Olympic trials. And I thought it would be cool to be able to get a little bit more in depth into some of the things that they both do very well when it comes to sprinting. And with Christian Coleman, the main focus is going to be on his block start and what you could take away from some of the things he does very well from his block start, where Noah Lyles will look into some of the compare and contrast differences between their block start, Christian Coleman and Noah Lyles block start. We really want to get more in depth into what Noah Lyles does very well when he gets into his top speed. So you could take some of that away and hopefully sprinkle it into your own sprinting mechanics to make it so you're able to just run that much faster. So one of the things that stands out to me with Christian Coleman when we get this above view, we have Christian Coleman here, we have Noah Lyles here, is just how much distance he's able to cover in these first few steps and how his head just gets so far out in front. So we can see with Christian Coleman and Noah Lyles, they both get their first step down pretty quickly. I think that they're in a pretty similar position in a lot of ways here, but the difference is Christian Coleman is just way out in front with his head position there, and he's really out in front of everybody, but he continues that all the way through with these first few steps. You can see how much separation he now has from Noah Lyles, again, within these first three steps. And what's unique is just how well he's able to maintain that forward position in his spine, in his head, while he's also able to land so much on the front part of the foot. Usually when you see people that get their head too far in front, then they start to kind of stumble forward. They start lifting the foot really high back behind them. But he's just so great out of the block start that he's able to maintain a ton of balance on the front part of the foot. We'll look at a different angle here so you can see what he's doing as he's landing. And I think what really stands out is as he is striking the ground, he's maintaining a very straight position with his leg as that foot's striking, right? So you can see first few steps, he's a little bit bent here, but within like his first 4 or 5 steps, he's already basically extended within that leg while he's still pretty low with his head position, right? He's lower than basically everybody else here, other than in lane 1, but he's still able to, I think, get a lot of distance here because his leg is so extended. It helps him in being able to propel forward, where we can see the difference with Noah Lyles. He's much more focused on getting upwards. He's more getting vertical within the knees and using that as a way to be able to build speed. So while Noah Lyles isn't as explosive out of the get-go or out of the start, he is able to build his speed for a lot longer, which is what makes this into a very, very competitive race. They get to close to the end, and you can see that Christian Coleman just doesn't get nearly as much extension in the hip. We have Noah Lyles here. This is from the U.S. trials. You can see he's just getting a lot of range there. And obviously this isn't a perfect way of being able to measure the extension within the hip, but it does give some indication of the differences here. So you can see these are both about at toe off. We can maybe go a little bit further here with Coleman, but it's still going to be a similar 10 to 15 degree difference in hip extension angles. And I think it's important to understand that. I know there's a lot of coaches out there that are talking about how when the foot is coming off, you don't need to get triple extension in the leg or fully extend the knee. I do think that there's a lot of guys that are getting that are running amongst the top times in the world. So while I don't think that that's necessarily something that you have to use, guys that end up not using it are more of the quicker athletes, or even like Usain Bolt. He didn't necessarily get full triple extension, but he was 6'5". And so what made him very unique and elite was that when he landed, he was able to get the heel up very quickly and have very quick foot contact time for somebody that was 6'5". He didn't need to get as much length, where like Noah Lyles, him having such a long leg length allows him to fully utilize the distance per step, and that's how he's able to run so fast, is he just creates just a huge amount of distance per step compared to other people that are 5'10". And to take that away, or to limit the amount of extension he can get in the hip because you're trying to not get triple extension, I think can end up being a negative thing. So I think one of the things that we want to really look into when it comes to Noah Lyles and what stands out with him is that hip extension angle. Something that you could use to help you run faster is getting better hip extension. Another big part of it is going to be getting more height within the foot. So when we see Noah Lyles come off the ground, his foot is about to his hip, or we could see with Christian Coleman, it's a little bit lower with how high he's getting his leg. Left side is definitely a lot lower. Where again, we look to see Noah Lyles, he's getting that hip or that foot really high, again, about middle part of the hip, and then he comes all the way forward and through from there. And I think this also allows him to get more extension out in front. You can see he gets really long and extended there before foot strike, where Christian Coleman, he'll turn out a little bit more before foot strike. He just doesn't get as much length in his front side. He's maintaining more of that hip back position, where again, Noah Lyles just does a really good job of being able to land with that foot right underneath him, just getting full extension within the body, or has more of a concentration on getting full extension within the body. And so therefore he is able to, I think, generate more vertical force into the ground. He gets a higher push off, his feet get higher, he gets more length within his stride. All these things are going to allow him to just generate more force into the ground, which is a big part of being able to run fast. A big part of being able to have great explosiveness is that horizontal, the whole force velocity curve. Things like that are things that Christian Coleman relies on to make it so he's just so explosive out of the gate, and then also suffers a little bit when it comes to his top speed. He's not getting as good of vertical force numbers. We know this just because he doesn't run as fast. So in order to run faster, we know that there's a direct relationship between ground force and speed. And so to know that Noah Lyles is running faster, right, objectively running faster, we know that he's generating more force into the ground in order to do that. And a big part of that, I think, is the height that he's getting within the foot. Another big part of that is the length that he gets in his stride, or how much time he's using to be able to gather momentum as the foot's coming off the ground to then generate a lot of force into the ground. And so I think both of those end up being a play off of each other. So when you use the height of the foot to then strike the ground, and generating more force in the ground makes it so then it naturally kind of creates that bigger length within the stride, where being very quick with like the turnover, not having as much length in each one of the steps, taking more steps in a 60 meter, taking more steps in a 100 meter, like what Christian Coleman does. What that does is it makes it so then as you are striking the ground, you're just not going to be as forceful. You're going to be relying much more on the turnover. So distance in comparison to turnover is really the difference of what makes it so Christian Coleman runs the way he does and Noah Lyles runs the way he does. Not to say one is necessarily right and one is necessarily wrong, just because they're both amongst the best. Just to kind of go over those four main takeaways that we wanted to get is, one, with the block start, Christian Coleman does a great job getting that head out in front, and he's also very quick to start to extend that leg at foot strike. I would say after his first three steps, so as he gets into his fourth step, he's really starting to create more extension in the leg as it's striking the ground. And with Noah Lyles, the two main things that stood out were, one, great hip extension. I think being able to maximize that for a lot of people is going to be a great thing to make it so you can run faster. But the other thing is going to be getting more height within the foot, specifically in the front side as the leg is coming through, making sure you get good height to then be able to generate more force in the ground, make it so then you can improve your speed. As always, if this ended up helping you or benefiting you, click that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendation, leave those down below. Check out the description for some of the things that we offer in terms of some programs and ways to be able to help you within your running. And we also will have some recommendations here for other videos that we think can be beneficial for you in your sprinting development. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.